Uh, Greetings to you all, compatriots. Today I want to talk about the Sudd ecosystem and its importance to South Sudan and the region, and why South Sudan needs to ratify the cooperative framework agreement of the Nile Basin as a way to keep Egypt away from destroying this important ecosystem, destroying the Sudd region. Of course, a couple of days ago, the Council of Ministers passed a resolution authorizing clearing and cleaning of the waterways in South Sudan for navigation purposes. Some people have their doubts about that, but let's see what will happen, because in the resolution they said that national companies are the ones that are going to carry out the clearing and cleaning of these waterways. This short presentation will first talk about, I will first briefly outline the politics, the Nile water sharing and the politics behind it, and Egyptian dominance of the Nile very briefly. Then I will go through the importance of the South Wetlands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Why is it a UNESCO World Heritage Site? And why is it a Ramsar wetland of international importance? And why we should, these are the reasons why we need to protect it. Of course, in terms of Egyptian dominance, it all started in 1929, as you all know, and 1959, when Egypt allotted itself the lion's share of the Nile waters through an agreement with the United Kingdom. Of course, all other Nile basin countries were not party to the agreement. It was a colonial agreement, and that's why the Nile Basin Initiative is now an alternative. It's now the law that governs the Nile waters, not those colonial agreements that allotted Egypt everything on the Nile. Egyptian dominance started not long ago, not from the time of the pharaohs, but from the time of Muhammad Ali Pasha, because Muhammad Ali Pasha in 1804, he ruled Egypt for 44 years, and he is still known as the founder of modern Egypt. Why is he known as the founder of modern Egypt? Because he is the one who modernized Egypt. He built 22 Nile tributaries in Egypt. Those of us and those of you who have been to Egypt, who have lived in Egypt, know these tributaries and dams and gates. These gates in Egypt are called anater. They call them an anater. They block the Nile water from running into the Mediterranean. Of course, Egypt has Lake Nasser, which is the largest man-made fresh water in the world, and it's working on Toshka project. Toshka project is a second Nile valley, all from the waters of the Nile. The other countries, the other Nile basin countries, which are Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, DR Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Sudan, and Egypt. The 11 countries are under the control of Egypt in terms of Egyptian veto power over any project that they want to have to make over the Nile. The Nile Basin countries' response to Egyptian dominance was through the Nile Basin Initiative, which was launched in 1999. And the Nile Basin Initiative is based on the international principle of do no harm. Do no harm, principle of cooperation, principle of shared benefits, and the principle of peace and security. And the Nile Basin Initiative does not recognize fixed water shares. So the Egyptian share is not recognized by the Nile Basin countries. That is why South Sudan needs to join these countries. The Nile Basin Initiative also calls for irrigation and drainage, the use of Nile waters for irrigation and drainage, which we also need, because as our population grows, it is inevitable that later on we are going to have irrigated agriculture. And the Nile Basin Initiative also calls for that. And the Nile Basin Initiative also has partners, international partners that have recognized the rights of these countries over the Nile waters. The World Bank is a partner. The African Development Bank is also a partner. The Global Environmental Facility is also a partner. And if South Sudan joins this initiative, South Sudan will be able to unlock the resources that these partners provide to these countries. When you ratify, you can carry out, you can, for example, plan to build a dam and ask the World Bank to finance that or partially finance that. They will do it because it's part of the Nile Basin Initiative's vision for all the Nile countries, the Nile Basin countries. Egypt and Sudan agreed to 90% of Nile Basin Initiative aspirations, including Ethiopia's power potential. They agreed to 90%, but they disagreed. Egypt, in particular, disagreed that they have to retain veto power. The Nile Basin, the NBI does not recognize Egyptian veto power, but Egypt now refused to ratify this agreement because it wants to retain its veto power. There is also a clause in the NBI about conservation of ecosystems on the Nile Basin, and there was a mention of the Sudd Wetlands of South Sudan in that agreement. So if South Sudan ratifies this agreement, it will keep away Egypt from draining the Sudd Wetlands, because this agreement talks about conservation of ecosystems. Egypt also refused to ratify that clause of conservation of ecosystems on the Nile River. The Nile Basin Initiative also came up with a strategy 2017 and 2022, with 6 goals. The 6 goals are enhanced availability and sustainable utilization and management of transboundary water resources, enhanced hydropower development in the basin. We need hydropower, and increase interconnectivity of electric grids and power trade. So this is the right of Ethiopia to generate electricity and also trade that electricity with other countries in the region and beyond. enhance efficient agricultural water use, and promote a basin approach to address the linkages between water and food security. Water and food security are interlinked. So this strategy also recognizes that water and food security are interlinked. Protect and restore and promote sustainable use of water-related ecosystems across the basin. This is another clause that Egypt does not want. Improve basin resilience to climate change. Climate change impacts. Egypt does not, with drainage of the Sudd Wetlands in particular, we are talking about there will be no resilience to climate change in South Sudan in particular. Unlike those other countries, South Sudan will lose most in terms of because Egypt will not be able to drain Lake Tana in Ethiopia, for example, or it will not be able to drain Lake Victoria in Uganda, but Egypt's eyes are on the Sudd Wetlands. The only weak link is a place where it can increase its water is through South Sudan. Ratifying this agreement will send a clear message to Egypt that we want to protect the Sudd Wetlands. Now let me try to outline the importance of the Sudd Wetlands in terms of being a Ramsar wetland of international importance and a UNESCO World Heritage site. Of course, the Sudd Wetland is one of Africa's largest and one of the largest tropical freshwater swamps and wetlands on the planet. In terms of, this is, by the way, in terms of surface water, fresh water on Earth, it's a scarce resource. Fresh water on Earth, the sources of fresh water on Earth, almost 70% are from glaciers. This is frozen lakes and ice caps from mountain tops. This is almost 70%. 30% is groundwater, and surface water make up only 0.3. Only 0.3. These are lakes, rivers, and swamps. So if you have fresh water in your country, then you are part of this 0.3. You have a big percentage from that 0.3 fresh water on the planet. So it is a very important resource, and it can be quantified in terms of money, because other countries are using desalination plants because they use salt water and desalinate that, take away the salt from it and purify it in order to drink. We don't have to do that. So we are blessed to have that water in South Sudan. Let's see why the Sudd Wetlands is a Ramsar site of international importance. The criteria for designation according to the Ramsar site of international importance criteria. First of all, there are about 2,400 sites in the world, Ramsar sites in the world, that are spread in 172 countries. And there are 172 contracting parties. It's not that they are spread over these countries, but there are 172 contracting parties that agree to develop, maintain, and conserve the ecology and biodiversity of these sites. These sites, the largest Ramsar sites, are some are in Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, in Latin America. We have Grand Affluent in DR Congo, almost the size of the Sudd Wetland. We have another one in Botswana, almost the size of the Sudd wetland. We have a big wetland also in Chad. Then we have the Sudd wetland, which is 60,000 square kilometers in South Sudan, which makes it one of the largest on the continent. The criteria for designating this the Sudd wetland as a Ramsar site, criteria A, for a site to be a Ramsar site, it has to meet these criteria. A, sites containing representative, rare, or unique wetland types. It applies to the Sudd wetlands. All these criteria apply to the Sudd wetland. Sites of international importance for conserving biological diversity. B1, criteria based on species and ecological communities that are in that site. Supports biodiversity of plants and animal species. Provide refuge to animal species at a critical stage in their life cycle. Specific criteria based on water birds. If you have a specific number, like supports 20,000 or more of water birds, the said wetlands support more than 20,000 water birds. B3, specific criteria based on fish, supports a significant proportion of indigenous fish species. We have that species of family or families. Important source of food for fishes. The said wetlands provide that spawning ground, nursery, and or migration path on which fish stocks, either within the wetland or elsewhere, depend. We have the said wetland meets that criteria. Specific criteria based on other taxa, such as regularly supports 1% of the individuals in a population of one species or subspecies. Of course, the said wetland supports that. The Ramsar site has site protection measures. Some of these site protection measures to ensure that the ecological character of Ramsar sites is preserved. The contracting party shall inform the Secretariat if any Ramsar site in its territory is at risk of changing or as a result of political or human interference, such as oil spills or cleaning and clearing. Are we sure that this clearing and cleaning will not change the character of the Sudd as a Ramsar site? If we are sure, you don't have to report to the Secretariat. But if we are not sure, we have to report that to the Secretariat in order to get a second opinion. So I hope that before undertaking the cleaning and clearing, the government of South Sudan should consult with the Secretariat of the Ramsar, with the Ramsar advisory mission, for a Ramsar advisory mission to be sent to South Sudan to work with those who are going to do the clearing and cleaning, to provide technical advice on how to do that. And of course, when you have a Ramsar site, a contracting party can delete or restrict the boundaries of a Ramsar site. If you want to reduce the size of that site of the Sudd wetland, in our case, of course, you can do that. As a sovereign country, sovereign state, you can do that, but you will destroy your own resource. The main threats to the Sudd wetland, which is a biodiversity hotspot, the main threats to the Sudd wetland are one, disruption of the Sudd's hydrologic cycle. Those who do water science, the hydrologic cycle includes evaporation, It's is the beginning, evaporation of water going up. Condensation, that's when water evaporates going up, it condenses, turning into clouds. Precipitation is falling as rain, runoff, rivers and lakes. Storage, these are lakes or lagoons. They are all in the South Wetlands. Percolation is going to the ground to form groundwater. And transpiration is water movement from the soil also going up. It's just like evaporation. The water cycle in the South Wetland, according to Egypt, is they say it's wastage. They call evaporation, which is one important element of the water cycle. Egypt calls it wasted. It's wasted in South Sudan. It's the rainfall that comes to South Sudan. We have 2 seasons, and the grazing land that we have to Egypt is all wasted. The other threat is disruption of seasonal rainfed, flooding, and socio-ecological system, which supports the livelihoods of indigenous pastoralist communities. Number 3, the destruction of fresh water and grassland habitats for millions of herbivores. Herbivores, these are wildlife and livestock that eat grass. Destroying that, you're destroying the habitats for these hundreds of millions of wildlife and livestock in South Sudan. The destruction of aquatic habitats, these are water habitats such as lagoons, lakes, floating vegetation. Of course, when we are doing clearing and cleaning, this is going to be moving, floating vegetation such as papyrus or water hyacinth. In Ethiopia, they have also wetlands, and they don't use big machines to clear all the water hyacinth and papyrus, because it also work as a cover for fish spawning or fish growing, feeding, survival ground. So that's why they allow villagers to go and open and clear these water hyacinths. But in our case, of course, the Council of Ministers says it's for navigation. That's why they have to use machines. But let us hope that they don't go and also clear those areas that are not meant for navigation. Let them concentrate on navigable paths only. Let us hope so. Destruction of aquatic habitats, I've talked about it. Destruction of natural biological processes, including seasonal animal migration, such as the Buma animal migration coming from Ethiopia. Hundreds of millions of animals every year during the dry season in Ethiopia. They move to South Sudan, and in 2005, a USAID aerial survey documented that the migration of these animals is almost equal to the Serengeti animal migration, which is one of the wonders of the world. So we are going. If we drain the set, we are going to destroy these biological processes, because when they reach there, they breed. The area becomes a breeding ground for these animals. They have fresh water. They drink water. They breed. They multiply. Then they move back to Ethiopia, or they move back within the Sudd Wetland itself. destruction of habitats for endangered and threatened species, such as elephants, buffaloes, etc. In the US, when such animals are designated as endangered or threatened species, then they are protected and their habitats are also protected. So if we develop laws that designate these animals as endangered and threatened species, then their habitats automatically must be protected. Destruction of winter and dry season refuge for migratory birds from Asia, Europe, and into Africa. Every year during the winter season, birds fly from migratory birds fly from Asia and Europe, and they come and nest. They come and stay in the Sudd Wetlands and the other wetlands in DRC, Congo, in Botswana. They go up to Botswana, they go to Chad. And if you drain the Sudd Wetlands, then you have destroyed one of the refuges for these migratory birds. That's why before the clearing and cleaning that the Council of Ministers has authorized is carried out, you need to look at the threats to the Sudd Wetlands. We need to ratify the CFA, the Cooperative Framework Agreement of the Nile Basin, to send a clear message to Egypt that yes, we are going to clear, we are going to clean these waterways, but we recognize that the Sudd wetland that Egypt wants to drain is as a Ramsar site. It is South Sudan that took it for that designation. It's South Sudan. It's the government of South Sudan that took it to be recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it ratifying or joining these countries against Egypt will send a clear message to Egypt that we are siding with our Nile Basin brothers, and we have to share the benefits of the Nile together as African brothers and sisters. I guess this is just a brief discussion about the Sudd wetland and why we need to ratify the CFA of the Nile Basin. Of course, so many people have, especially environmentalists, have talked about this issue, and I know one or two things about the environment. That's why I try to also weigh in, and let's all continue raising awareness about the importance of the Sudd wetland, raising awareness about Egyptian dominance and Egyptian aspiration to drain, to dig the Jonglei Canal and drain this important resource in South Sudan that can generate a lot of money through tourism. That is all. Thank you so much, and those of you who are going to watch this later on. God bless you all.